Hey guys, and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be explaining exactly how much I earned my first 3 years in business as an entrepreneur and a digital nomad. So you definitely won't want to miss this one. Things are about to get real. So cheers to that. For those of you that are new here, my name is Kristen and I am an entrepreneur, digital nomad, and truly passionate about personal finance. So for those of you that align with those things or are interested in hearing more about where a travel-focused lifestyle intersects with your personal finances so you can travel as much as you want and don't feel like you're sacrificing the financial stability that you crave, then continue to tune in here, and I encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss any updates on this channel. Okay, so the first thing that I need to break down for you guys is exactly what I do. What is my business? So I, by trade, am a certified public accountant, and what that means is I went to school for 4 years and got an accounting degree, a bachelor's degree. And then I did an extra 1 year to get a master's degree in accounting. And I also went on to take my CPA examination and I passed that. So if you don't have any credentials or fancy degrees, don't tune any of this out because most of what I do does not require any sort of degree. So I want you to know that this is doable for you, whether or not you have marketable degrees or experience. All that to say, when I finished my college education, I went on and I got what I thought was my dream job at a really big accounting firm. And I had the prestigious job and I was working with some cool people, and I thought maybe one day I will be partner here. I can work my way up and climb the ladder, so to speak, and become a big dog here at this company. But unfortunately, about 6 months in, I got really disenfranchised with that idea because I started to look at the higher ups, at all the partners in the firm, and realized I don't want their lifestyle. And during that time, I also started to hear a lot of buzz about the term digital nomad that was kind of just coming onto the scene. This was in 2015, 2016. So on a lot of the travel podcasts I was listening to, they were talking about digital nomads, and then I started subscribing to some digital nomad specific podcasts, and I really got a lot of inspiration from those, and I thought maybe I could do that. Now, keep in mind, this was 2015, so no one worked remotely at that point in time. I really never knew that there were remote jobs in accounting or finance. So it kind of did still seem out of reach, and I thought maybe I would need to learn a new skill set and kind of just start over. So that's where my head was at, but I figured, okay, you know what? Clearly this job is not a good fit for me. I was feeling really stressed out and really burnt out. So I decided to pursue a gap year. And during that gap year, I would try to make it work, try to earn some money online and see if I could continue with being a digital nomad. But honestly, I did not have high hopes. So what I did was my then boyfriend, now husband, and I saved up about $30,000. And we just quit our jobs and sold our things and up and left for our year of travel. And during that year, I learned a lot, but I really learned that it was possible to make money online, even as a finance or accounting professional. In fact, it's possible to make money online no matter what the heck your background is. So I started off by teaching English to Chinese students, and that was my first taste of remote work. I was not good at it and I did not like it. So quickly thereafter, I dove into Upwork and started to apply for lots of different opportunities, and mostly using leveraging my experience as an accountant and a financial professional. And I was getting a few things, which was really exciting. But I knew that ultimately to make this sustainable, I would probably need to or want to eventually start my own business. And that the idea of that terrified me. I didn't have any money to invest in opening a business. I really knew if I was going to do it, I needed to bootstrap it. And what bootstrap means is I needed to just self-funded. I needed to just earn money and grow it using the money I've earned. So that is what I set out to do. And in this video, we're going to talk about my first 3 years bootstrapping my business, how much revenue I earned, and how much I took home as the owner of the business, and what those pivotal learning moments were along the way. So I really think you'll be able to use my story and allow it to help you do what you want to do, grow your business, or at least get inspiration for the future. So let's talk about year one. So year one of being an entrepreneur. To give a little bit more background, I had gotten a series of freelance jobs, but my most recent one before I started and went full-time on my business, Gradient Accounting, was that I basically apprenticed at an online fully remote accounting firm that did bookkeeping and taxes for small business owners. And this was amazing because even though I had all of these credentials and all of this experience working with really big companies, I really didn't know how small business accounting worked. So this apprenticeship, so to speak, was such a great opportunity for me, and I learned so much and really soaked it all in. I decided to leave that job because they were not so pleased with the idea of me being a digital nomad. They allowed me to work remotely from my home office, but they didn't want me to travel to other countries and work remotely due to different concerns. And I talked more about that in a video called Should I Tell My Employer That I Am Working Abroad? So I'll link that here so you can tune into that whole story. But anyway, that brings me to August 2020 when I leave that company and go full-time with Gradient Accounting, my own business. And this was absolutely terrifying, but I also had a really great baseline to start out with. So I had an emergency fund and savings that my husband and I had worked hard to lock in. And fortunately enough, he had a very stable job. So it wasn't like I was totally risking our financial future by going all in on my own business. So that is one really good tip for you guys, is to make sure that you have a bit of a cash runway. It doesn't mean that you need to invest money and have a bunch of money to start a business. You do not. In fact, I didn't invest $1 into my business. I bootstrapped it, like I had said earlier. But it is important to have a bit of a cash buffer to lean on, because likely you won't be taking home a paycheck in your first year, and heck, unfortunately, maybe even first couple of years. So it's really important to have that security. So this is where my first few pivotal points come into play. Number one, I definitely recommend trying to apprenticeship at another business that is similar to what you think you may want to build one day. So get that experience. If you can, work directly with a founder and get paid to learn a crap ton of new information. So don't feel like that's a step back, because for me, it kind of was, honestly. I was making a lot less than I would if I would have stayed at my big firm, but I knew that it was such a good stepping stone to get me to where I wanted to be as a digital nomad. Pivotal point number 2 is to find and learn what your magic sauce is. So we all have, obviously, our own skills and abilities. And obviously, I had learned, I was good at finance and accounting because I got the degree and I passed the exam. But ultimately, I realized that I was really good at client service. So I was skilled at taking, for example, when I was at my big accounting firm and I worked there as an auditor, a lot of times we would go into our client and they inherently wouldn't like us because we're there to audit and review all of their stuff. But I was able to really be friendly with them, to be very empathetic and understanding, and to really break them down, and ultimately to form really great relationships with those clients. So I knew client service was something I liked and something that I was good at. So I knew that if my business was in that realm, I would probably be successful. So figure out what your kind of secret sauce is. What thing do you excel at the most, and how do you stand out compared to your peers at the various jobs that you've had? And then my pivotal point number 3 is that consider B2B before B2C. And what that means is consider serving other businesses, so business to business models, rather than business direct to consumer business models. And the reason being, it's easier to make a living at first because you only need a few business clients to really make this work and to have kind of your monthly nut covered, so to speak. Whereas if you work directly with consumers, you can't charge as high of prices, it's harder to find customers, and you really need to probably have some sort of seed money to go out there and do the marketing that you need to do. So consider B2B. So all that said, even though I had a great foundation, my first year in business was very hard. I was only making about $2,500 to $3,000 a month in revenue. I only had a couple clients, and I was spending most of my time in client acquisition, which felt so frustrating because it felt like unpaid work. And I learned very quickly that I am not a salesperson, and it wasn't something I was naturally super good at. So I had to learn a lot, and I heard the word no a bunch of times to get to yeses. So it was difficult. My first 6 months, I remember being extremely difficult, but at the end of those 6 months or so, I had gained some traction, and I had quite a few clients and was on track to get more, and I decided to make my first hire, which was early, honestly, and it was just a part-time independent contractor, and she was working probably only about 10 hours per week, but I knew that for me to continue to devote the time I needed to devote to client acquisition, I needed to try to remove myself as early as possible from all of the day-to-day and kind of the more administrative work that my business entails. So that's what I did, and it was a great decision, honestly. Yes, I did have to sacrifice more pay, right, because I was paying her, so that was less of that $3,000 a month that I could bring home, but it allowed me to scale my business a bit more. So those are my other pivotal points. Number 4 pivotal point is to hire before you think you're ready, just so you can free yourself up to continue to grow things. And then number 5 pivotal point, and we didn't talk about this a whole bunch, but again, I said I was only making like up to $3,000 a month revenue. And so what that meant was that I wasn't taking home much, but I did use a concept called geo arbitrage to my favor. And what that means is you live in somewhere with a lower cost of living, and you maybe serve clients that are in different locales, so potentially have higher costs of living. So what I had done was I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a low cost of living community in the United States. And a lot of my clients were in New York City or other big kind of metro cities. So I was able to make good retainers with those clients to make good fees, but then my cost of living was very low. And you can hack it even more if you're willing to move abroad. So consider somewhere like Mexico or Thailand to use that concept of geo arbitrage to your favor, and that will just lengthen out the cash runway that you have and allow you more time to really get your business off the ground. So yeah, ended that first year doing about $3,000 a month in revenue, and it wasn't great, but that brings me to year 2. Okay, so now we are going to talk about my second full year in business, and this was an amazing year. It was a growth year. So we ended up doing about $100,000 in revenue that year, which is amazing. As you can see, the growth really happened in the second year. And of that $100,000, I was able to bring home about $55,000 as owner's pay. And that is gross also, so that's before taxes. So basically, I was on a $55,000 a year salary in my business, which was fantastic. I worked really hard that year, and the good thing was that the business was continuing to grow without me investing money into the business, right? So it was, again, still that bootstrap business model where it's kind of self-funding itself. And then also that year, I had a couple more team members come into the fold. So I hired kind of that second key position, and then I also brought on an intern. So I continued that principle of just hiring slightly before you're ready to make sure that I could free myself up, because also I realized that when it comes to being a digital nomad and working, sometimes you aren't able to work full-time 40, 50-hour work weeks, right? It's really hard to balance the travel and working that much. So to me, it was really important to allow myself to have the free time I needed to use my lifestyle that I had built in a way I wanted to use it, right? What is the point of it all if you build this lifestyle that gives you all this freedom, but you've not built your business that way? So you constantly have to work and you're chained to your desk. So that's another really important principle when it comes to hiring. So this brings me to my third year in business, which is where I have another really key takeaway. And so my third year in business, I made on average about $15,000 a month in revenue, which was huge. It was much more than my second year and infinitely more than my first year. And so as you can see, I had about 100% revenue growth year over year for my first 3 years. All that to say, of that $15,000 per month, I ended up taking home a owner's pay or salary that year of around $75,000 to $80,000. And again, before taxes, and before benefits and 401k and all of that kind of stuff. But that felt really significant. And that was a real turning point for me, because finally at that point, I was making about what I would make if I would have continued on my trajectory with my accounting career and with my normal day jobs. So that brings me to my next key pivotal point, and that is the 1,000-day principle. And so what this principle basically says is it takes 1,000 days being in business to do the same or better than you were at your day job. Yeah, that's 3 years. And that's brutal sometimes to think about, but it wasn't like I was making $0 in years 1 and 2. I took a temporary pay cut, but eventually by year 3, I had made as much as I would have made if I would have stuck with my career, and I was on a trajectory to earn even more. So totally worth it. So glad I stuck it out. There were lots of hard moments in there, but also lots of joy. And getting to build a business is such an honor and privilege, but also you learn so much. It's like going to boot camp every day. And not only did I have to learn how to be a better accountant, but I had to learn sales and marketing and leadership and operations and all of these things that I never got trained on and didn't always come natural to me. So it's been a joy and a privilege to get to do this, and I'm so lucky and fortunate to be where I am today. And I just want to encourage you, if you have a business idea or you know it's on your heart to start a business, consider going after it and really let these pivotal points be takeaways for you as to some of the lessons I've learned along the way and how to implement them in your own journey. So yeah, that was year 3. It was a great year. And that brings us to current day, so years 4 and 5. So I'm currently in my 5th year of running my business. And things are not rainbows and unicorns every day. It's difficult. I've had some setbacks along the way, and revenue's kind of gone up and down several times, and growth has leveled out a little bit, but I am still able to live my digital nomad lifestyle. I work on average about 25 to 30 hours per week, and I take home a really good income. So I hope my story can be an inspiration to you. And thank you so much for being here. And I would love if you considered liking this video, leaving me a comment, and subscribing to my channel, where I'll talk even more about my journey, building my business and with entrepreneurship and balancing the travel-focused lifestyle that I love to have. Thanks again.